In the quiet hours before dawn, when mist drapes the earth like a silken veil and the first light hesitates on the horizon, there exists a stillness that speaks louder than any clamor of the world. In this profound silence, a timeless truth is revealed. Every act of kindness, however small, ripples outward, touching hearts and healing wounds invisible to the eye. This is the essence of compassion, the seed from which the boundless garden of human love and understanding grows. The ancient teachings of the Buddha remind us that life is transient and suffering is inevitable. Yet within this impermanence lies the opportunity for transcendence. Compassion, or karuna in the sacred language of Dharma, is the art of meeting another's pain with gentle warmth. It is the courageous decision to see beyond one's own suffering and reach out, even when resources are scarce or hearts are heavy with sorrow. In a secluded valley embraced by emerald hills and cradled by a meandering river, the stage was set for a fable that would be whispered in temple corridors and village squares for generations to come. Here, the simple act of sharing a humble bowl of congee would become a luminous parable, a reminder that the greatest wealth lies not in material abundance, but in the compassion that binds us all. The bowl, warm and fragrant with the aroma of rice and water, was destined to be the final offering of sustenance on a day that would test the mettle of human empathy and the resolve of spiritual insight. As the chill of early morning gradually gave way to a gentle warmth, the people of this quiet hamlet began to stir, unaware that the coming hours would alter the fabric of their communal life. Every soul, from the aged to the young, would be drawn into a moment of collective grace, a moment where the practice of giving became a radiant beacon in the darkness. In that timeless instance, compassion was not merely an abstract ideal but a tangible reality, a final bowl of congee that would speak of sacrifice, unity, and the deep, abiding truth of our shared humanity. Thus, with the soft murmur of nature as its prelude, the story unfolds, a narrative woven from threads of hardship and hope, loss and love, despair and luminous rebirth. It is the story of the last bowl of congee, a humble meal that would awaken dormant hearts and kindle an everlasting flame of kindness. Nestled amid lush rice paddies and ancient bamboo groves, the village of Serenity was a haven untouched by the turbulence of the outside world. Its narrow, winding lanes led past modest dwellings and vibrant gardens where wildflowers danced in the breeze. At the heart of the village stood a modest temple, a sanctuary of prayer, meditation, and quiet reflection. Here, the gentle toll of a bell resonated like a call to awaken the spirit, inviting every villager to pause and listen to the wisdom of nature and the quiet murmur of the divine. Every morning, as the sun ascended in a blaze of golden splendor, the villagers gathered at the temple's courtyard. They exchanged warm greetings, shared small stories of the previous day's joys and trials, and offered silent thanks for the bounty that nature provided. Among these souls was an old, revered monk known simply as Venerable Siddhartha, a name that carried the weight of years and wisdom. His kind eyes, softened by decades of meditation and service, saw beyond the veil of appearances, discerning the silent battles fought in each heart. Siddhartha had once traveled far and wide, seeking answers to the perennial questions of existence. Why must suffering be so prevalent? What is the nature of true happiness? In his long journey, he had discovered that while the world was impermanent, the quality of compassion could transform pain into a stepping stone toward enlightenment. And so, he returned to this village, a place where the simple rhythms of life harmonized with the eternal truths of Dharma. Within the village, life followed a gentle cadence. Farmers awoke before sunrise, their calloused hands tenderly nurturing the fields that fed their families. Women, with eyes bright as the morning dew, prepared meals with love and care, using ingredients grown in their own backyards. Children played amidst the tall grasses and ancient trees, their laughter mingling with the songs of birds. Yet, even in such idyllic simplicity, challenges lurked in the shadows. A harsh winter had left many families with little to sustain them, and whispers of hardship began to echo through the quiet alleys. Despite these difficulties, the villagers held fast to their belief in community and mutual support. When one neighbor faltered, another would extend a helping hand. When a tear was shed, gentle words of consolation were offered. In this way, the spirit of compassion was not an abstract ideal but a living, breathing reality, a force that bound every person together in an unspoken covenant of love. Every evening, As twilight draped the sky in hues of indigo and drowse, the villagers would gather around long wooden tables for their evening meal. It was during these communal meals that the simplest food, a steaming bowl of congee, became a symbol of generosity and care. The congee, made from humble rice, simmered slowly in water until it reached a soft, nourishing consistency, was a reminder that even the most unpretentious sustenance could embody profound grace when prepared with loving intention. In times of plenty and times of want, the bowl of congee was a testament to the village's resilience and its unyielding commitment to care for one another. In one such household lived a young woman named Mai, whose quiet strength and tender compassion made her a cherished figure among her neighbors. Mai had grown up in the village, nurtured by stories of great bodhisattvas and the endless bounty of the human spirit. Her heart was wide and open, a vessel into which the sorrows and hopes of others could flow and be transformed. Every day, she would help prepare the evening meal, stirring the pot of congee with deliberate care and whispering a silent prayer for every soul who might partake in its warmth. As the seasons shifted and the winds of change began to stir, an undercurrent of anticipation was felt by all. It was as if nature itself was preparing for a momentous occurrence, a test of the village's collective compassion, and a chance for the ancient teachings of the Buddha to manifest in the everyday life of its people. Little did they know that fate was about to weave an extraordinary narrative, one in which a single bowl of congee would come to symbolize the power of selfless giving, the beauty of shared humanity, and the eternal light of compassion that glows within every heart. Beyond the verdant borders of the village, where the rugged mountains met the endless sky, a solitary figure journeyed along a dusty trail. Clad in saffron robes that bore the marks of time and travel, the wandering monk carried with him not only his few possessions but also a profound wisdom born of countless days spent in meditation and reflection. His footsteps were soft yet resolute, as if each step were an offering to the path of enlightenment. The monk's name was Ananda, a name that, in the ancient tongue, echoed joy and bliss. Yet the joy he carried was not that of fleeting pleasures, but a deep-seated serenity that arose from understanding the impermanent nature of all things. In every encounter, he sought to share the transformative power of compassion. His eyes, deep and reflective, saw each being as a mirror of his own heart, and every sorrow or smile that he encountered was a call to extend kindness without reservation. Ananda's journey had not been a simple quest for personal liberation, it was a pilgrimage to awaken the dormant seeds of compassion in others. Along his path, he had witnessed both the cruelty and the beauty of human nature. He had seen kingdoms crumble and hearts break, yet he had also seen the healing balm of empathy mend even the deepest wounds. In his quiet moments of reflection, Ananda would recall the words of the Buddha, just as a mother would protect her only child at the risk of her own life, even so, cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. One crisp morning, as Ananda paused to rest beside a bubbling stream, he encountered a weary traveler whose eyes were clouded with pain. The traveler's journey, much like the monk's, had been marred by loss and disappointment, a life of constant struggle and isolation. Sensing the depth of the traveler's despair, Ananda gently offered a few words of solace. Suffering, dear friend, is as transient as the morning dew. Allow your heart to open, and you will find that compassion, both given and received, can heal even the deepest scars. This brief encounter rekindled Ananda's resolve to continue his journey, for every soul he met was a precious opportunity to share the light of the Dharma. He journeyed on, his path leading him ever closer to the humble village of Serenity, a place whispered about in his memories as a haven where the symbol and the sacred coexisted in harmonious balance. In his heart, Ananda knew that fate had arranged this meeting long before the first step was taken, a cosmic orchestration of events designed to remind the world of the transformative power of compassion. As the landscape gradually transformed from rugged mountain trails to gentle, rolling fields, the monk's thoughts turned to the nature of generosity. It was not the grand gestures or lavish offerings that held true meaning, but the sincerity of one's intent, the quiet, steadfast willingness to share one's life with another. Every grain of rice, every drop of water, became imbued with purpose when offered with a pure heart. In the days that followed, Ananda's reputation as a bearer of compassion and wisdom began to spread like ripples across a still pond. Travelers spoke of his gentle smile and his capacity to listen without judgment. They said that in his presence, Even the heaviest burdens of sorrow seemed to lift, replaced by a quiet reassurance that the path to inner peace was never as distant as it appeared. And so, with each step, the monk not only traversed the physical world but also journeyed deep into the hearts of those he encountered, planting seeds of hope, nurturing the fragile buds of kindness, and inspiring others to awaken to the luminous truth of interconnectedness. It was with this spirit that Ananda approached the threshold of the village of Serenity, a place where every face, every gesture, resonated with the silent poetry of life. Little did he know that within this village, a profound story was about to unfold, a story in which a single, humble bowl of congee would serve as the catalyst for an awakening of the heart, a reminder that in even the smallest act of giving, the light of compassion can shine with the brilliance of 1,000 suns. Not far from the warm glow of the village's communal hearths, on a dusty roadside shadowed by ancient banyan trees, there wandered a solitary figure whose steps were laden with despair. His name was Liang, a man whose life had been marred by misfortune, whose hopes had withered like autumn leaves blown away by a merciless wind. Liang's eyes, once bright with dreams of a better future, now mirrored the endless night of his sorrows. For years, Liang had journeyed alone, his path strewn with hardships that seemed to compound with every passing season. A once skilled craftsman, he had lost his livelihood to the ravages of fate. Friends had departed, and even the warmth of family had grown distant, leaving him to navigate the labyrinth of life in solitude. Hunger gnawed at him, not merely of the body but of the spirit, a gnawing emptiness that no worldly possession could fill. In his darkest moments, Liang questioned whether his suffering had any meaning or whether he was destined to wander forever in the shadow of despair. One chill morning, as frost clung to the edges of barren fields, Liang's weary journey brought him to the outskirts of the village of Serenity. His stomach growled with the relentless hunger that accompanied every step, and his heart ached with the isolation of one who has been forgotten by the world. Clad in threadbare garments and carrying nothing but a small bundle of belongings, Liang felt invisible, a solitary soul adrift in a world that had seemingly passed him by. Yet, as fate would have it, the humble village of Serenity was a sanctuary for all who sought solace. Word of the wandering monk Ananda had spread throughout the village, and even in the midst of personal struggle, the people believed in the transformative power of compassion. It was said that Ananda's mere presence could mend a fractured heart, and that his teachings carried the promise of hope for those whose lives had been battered by life's unyielding storms. At the break of day, Liang approached the village with trepidation. Every step was accompanied by a silent plea, a desperate hope that perhaps, in this place of quiet communion, he might find a morsel of sustenance or a kind word to soothe his weary soul. The aroma of freshly cooked rice and the gentle murmur of communal chatter reached his senses as he neared the village square, where a modest stall was set up for the evening meal. There, under a canvas of soft light and humble decorations, villagers gathered to share in the daily ritual of nourishment, a ritual that had become a beacon of unity and care. Liang's heart trembled as he approached the stall, his eyes searching the faces of those around him for a sign of welcome. He could see in their eyes a mixture of warmth and determination, a collective understanding that, in times of scarcity, the spirit of giving was the true sustenance. He paused, his throat dry from sorrow and longing, as memories of lost dignity and loneliness surged within him. Yet, in that quiet moment of vulnerability, a voice, gentle and resolute, whispered in his heart that compassion might yet find him in this place. Unbeknownst to Liang, the day would soon unfold into a series of events that would alter his destiny. The village, though modest in its means, was rich in heart. Among the gathered was Mai, the young woman whose hands and spirit were ever generous. Sensing the silent call of a suffering soul, Mai's compassionate gaze fell upon Liang. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and offered a warm smile, a gesture that bridged the chasm between his isolation and the embrace of community. "Please, come join us," Mai said softly, her voice carrying the quiet assurance of one who has known both hardship and hope. "There is always room at our table for anyone in need." Liang's eyes, swollen with years of pent-up sorrow, welled up with tears as he hesitated for a brief moment before accepting the invitation. The simple act of being seen and welcomed stirred something within him, a dormant ember of trust that had long lain buried beneath layers of despair. With each step into the circle of shared warmth, Liang felt the heavy burden of loneliness begin to lift. replaced by the gentle promise of belonging. Inside the village hall, as the late afternoon sun bathed the room in a golden glow, a modest meal was laid out on a long table. There, among bowls of fragrant rice congee and humble side dishes, the villagers had come together in an act of shared generosity. For many, the congee was not merely food, it was a symbol of the life-affirming spirit that sustained them through both plenty and paucity. The simple dish, lovingly prepared and offered without reservation, had become a ritual of connection, a tangible manifestation of the compassionate heart that beat at the center of the village. As Liang sat among these kind souls, his trembling hands reached for a bowl. In that quiet act, a spark of transformation ignited within him. The congee, warm and nourishing, filled not only his stomach but also, imperceptibly at first, the vast emptiness of his heart. It was as if every spoonful carried with it the whispered blessings of countless generations, a silent assurance that even in the face of overwhelming loss, there remained the possibility of rebirth through compassion. Little did Liang know that his arrival was part of a larger tapestry, a cosmic design that would soon lead him to the pivotal moment of the day, a moment when fate and free will converge around a single, precious bowl. The last bowl of congee, destined to be more than mere sustenance, was about to become the catalyst for an awakening of the spirit, a transformative act that would echo through the corridors of time and leave an indelible mark on every heart it touched. As dusk fell over the village of Serenity, the communal spirit reached its zenith. The evening meal was a cherished time when differences melted away, and every heart pulsed with the same quiet rhythm of gratitude. In the warmly lit dining hall, conversations hushed as the elders began recounting ancient parables, stories of compassion and sacrifice that had been passed down like treasured heirlooms. Amid this gentle gathering, an unforeseen crisis quietly emerged. Despite the abundance of love, the day's harvest had been meager, and the humble cook's careful efforts had yielded just one final bowl of congee. This single bowl, a modest concoction of rice simmered slowly in water and seasoned with a pinch of salt and a drizzle of oil, now rested in a simple clay bowl upon the communal table. Its surface shimmered with a golden glow in the soft light, and in that unassuming vessel lay the very essence of the village's spirit, a symbol of hope, unity, and the willingness to share even in the midst of scarcity. A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd as eyes shifted between one another. The bowl was a silent challenge to every heart present, who would claim it. But in that same moment, a higher truth resonated among the villagers, a truth that the final offering was never meant for one alone, but rather to be a spark that ignited the boundless flame of compassion in every soul. The wise monk Ananda, who had arrived in the village just that morning, stepped forward. His gaze, both penetrating and tender, swept over the assembled faces, and he spoke in a voice that was both gentle and resolute. Today, we face a choice that transcends hunger. This bowl, humble as it may seem, is a symbol of our shared journey. In it lies the spirit of giving and the promise of renewal. It is not meant to be hoarded, but to remind us that every drop of kindness, no matter how small, nourishes the heart. Let this be the last bowl of congee, a final act of generosity that binds us together. A hush fell over the room as his words sank in. The villagers exchanged glances, each weighed down by memories of personal struggle yet uplifted by the possibility of communal healing. In that charged silence, the fate of the single bowl became a mirror reflecting each person's innermost values. Would they succumb to the temptation of individual need, or would they embrace the profound power of collective compassion? Mai, whose compassion had already brought Liang a measure of solace, felt her heart swell with an inner resolve. "Let us share," she declared softly, her voice trembling with both determination and tenderness. "For in sharing, we find not only nourishment for our bodies but also for our souls. This bowl is not the last because it is the end, it is the beginning of a new way of living, where each of us becomes a bearer of kindness." Her words ignited a spark. One by one, the villagers rose to offer their own small tokens, a handful of rice, a cup of water, a few leaves of fresh herbs, to transform that single bowl into a feast of togetherness. The act was simple, yet it carried the weight of centuries of Buddhist teaching, that in the sharing of even the most modest gift, the suffering of one is alleviated by the compassion of many. As the contributions grew, so did the symbolism of the moment. Liang, who had arrived with despair in his eyes, now found himself at the center of an unfolding miracle. The bowl that was once destined to be the last, alone and insufficient, was gradually transformed into a bountiful banquet. In its metamorphosis lay a powerful lesson, that the act of giving multiplies the nourishment, not only of the body but of the spirit. Ananda continued to speak, his words imbued with the wisdom of ages. Each grain of rice represents a moment in time, fleeting yet precious. Just as a single drop of water can ripple into an endless stream, so too does a small act of compassion expand to touch lives far beyond our immediate sight. Today, we have witnessed that miracle. The last bowl of congee has become a testament to the transformative power of empathy, a beacon that will guide us through the darkness of scarcity toward the light of shared abundance. As the villagers gathered around the now overflowing table, a tangible warmth spread through the room, a warmth born not of the fire's heat alone but of the collective spirit of care. In every smile exchanged, in every gentle touch and kind word, the truth of the Buddha's teaching was made manifest, that the heart, when opened in love and generosity, is capable of miraculous transformation. The congee, once a simple dish, had become a ritual of renewal, a silent yet eloquent reminder that in every ending lies the promise of a new beginning. And as the villagers partook of the meal, their souls were nourished by the shared understanding that compassion was not an isolated act, but a continuous, living stream that flowed from one heart to another. In that sacred moment, the last bowl of congee transcended its physical form and became a luminous symbol of the eternal truth, that when we choose to share our scarce resources with those in need, we transform our world into a sanctuary of love and hope. After the communal meal, as night gently descended upon the village and stars began to puncture the indigo sky, the villagers gathered once again in the temple's courtyard. Lanterns, their light soft and golden, flickered against the ancient stone walls, a silent witness to the unfolding of a profound lesson. It was in this hushed atmosphere that Ananda, the wandering monk, invited everyone to sit in quiet reflection, ready to impart a teaching that would etch itself into the hearts of all present. Dear friends, Ananda began, his voice a gentle murmur that carried the depth of centuries. Today you have shown that true abundance is not measured by the fullness of one's bowl, but by the fullness of one's heart. In the simple act of sharing, you have embraced the very essence of the Dharma, a lesson that transcends the physical and speaks to the eternal. He paused, allowing the silence to absorb his words, and then continued. In the teachings of the Buddha, we learn that attachment is the root of suffering. The desire to hold on, to possessions, to pride, even to the self, only deepens the chasm of isolation and pain. Yet when we relinquish that attachment and open our hearts to others, we discover a boundless well of joy and fulfillment. Today, you have witnessed this truth in action. The last bowl of congee, once a symbol of scarcity, has been transformed into a celebration of our shared humanity. Ananda's eyes swept over the assembled faces, each reflecting the inner glow of newly awakened compassion. Let us consider the lotus flower, he said, drawing upon a timeless symbol of rebirth and purity. Planted in muddy water, it rises each day, its petals unfolding with sublime grace. It reminds us that even in the murk of suffering, beauty and enlightenment can emerge. So too, does compassion bloom within us, nurtured by the simple acts of giving, forgiving, and understanding. His words resonated deeply, stirring memories of personal struggles and moments of unexpected kindness. Liang, who had felt the cold emptiness of despair not long ago, now found himself enveloped by a warmth he had never thought possible. The teachings of the monk acted as a balm, soothing the scars of isolation and igniting the spark of hope. Every act of compassion, Ananda continued, is like a single drop of rain that nourishes a parched field. Though one drop may seem insignificant, when it falls among countless others, it revives the barren land and allows life to flourish. You have all contributed to this rainstorm of kindness. The generosity you have shown today is a practice of the Dharma, a practice that not only eases your own suffering but also plants the seeds of enlightenment in others. The night deepened as the monks' discourse wove together the threads of ancient wisdom and the tangible reality of their shared experience. He spoke of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, not as distant philosophical concepts, but as living practices to be embraced every day. When we choose to see the suffering of others as our own, he said, we honor the interconnectedness of all beings. Every act of love, Every small gesture of care is a step on the path to awakening. For many, this was not the first time they had heard such words. Yet tonight, the lessons acquired through the transformative power of the last bowl of congee lent a fresh clarity to the ancient teachings. The profound simplicity of sharing a meal had turned these concepts from mere ideas into a lived experience, a radiant example of how the Dharma could illuminate even the darkest corners of the heart. In the soft glow of the lanterns, eyes glistened with unspoken gratitude. The villagers, from the eldest to the youngest, absorbed each word as though it were a precious jewel. In that moment, the temple courtyard became a microcosm of the universe, a place where the vast mysteries of existence were distilled into the purity of compassion. Each person present felt that the teachings were not simply lessons to be learned, but a way of life to be embraced, a call to let go of selfishness and to live in harmony with the world. Ananda's voice softened further as he shared his own journey of discovery, a path marked by trials, loss, and ultimately, the profound realization that the essence of the Buddha's teachings was compassion in action. I, too, have known the depths of sorrow, he confided, his tone imbued with humility and truth, and it was only through the kindness of others that I was able to rise above my own suffering. Let my story be a testament to the healing power of compassion, and may you always remember that every moment offers a chance to begin anew. As the discourse drew to a close, the villagers remained seated in reflective silence, each heart resonating with the timeless message, that the true measure of life is not in what we keep for ourselves, but in the love we share with one another. The echoes of the monk's words would linger long after the night had passed, inspiring each soul to cultivate kindness, to see every challenge as an opportunity to practice compassion, and to understand that even the smallest act of giving can transform the world. In the days and weeks that followed that fateful evening, the transformative power of the last bowl of congee spread like ripples on a still pond. The village of Serenity, once defined by quiet routines and modest aspirations, blossomed into a living example of the Dharma in action. Each person, touched by the simple yet profound act of shared generosity, began to see the world through the lens of compassion. The ancient teachings were no longer confined to scripture or whispered in temple corridors. They had become the heartbeat of everyday life. Mai continued her work with renewed vigor, her gentle smile and tireless care inspiring neighbors to look beyond their own hardships. In the kitchens, she taught others the art of preparing meals with mindfulness, encouraging everyone to see each ingredient as a gift from nature and each dish as a sacred offering to the spirit of community. Through her example, even the simplest bowl of congee became a vessel for transmitting love and warmth. Liang, whose life had once been a solitary journey through despair, gradually discovered that his path was now illuminated by a newfound sense of purpose. The kindness he had experienced in the village rekindled a long-forgotten spark within him. No longer defined by his misfortunes, he began to offer his own humble talents, repairing broken tools, mending worn fabrics, and lending a listening ear to those in distress. In doing so, Liang not only reclaimed a measure of dignity but also became a living testament to the way a single compassionate act can transform a life. News of the village's extraordinary transformation soon reached distant lands. Travelers and seekers of truth began to arrive at Serenity, drawn by tales of a community where the ancient wisdom of the Buddha was lived out in every shared meal and every gentle smile. Among them were scholars, poets, and wandering pilgrims, each eager to witness the miraculous ripple of kindness for themselves. They marveled at how the people of Serenity, despite the hardships they faced, had embraced a way of life that transcended material need, one where the currency of the heart was far more valuable than any treasure. One evening, as the community gathered for their customary meal under a canopy of stars, a hush fell over the assembled crowd. A young traveler, his eyes wide with wonder and gratitude, stepped forward and asked, "How did you come to find such boundless compassion within yourselves?" His voice trembled with the weight of his own longing, a longing for connection and meaning that had driven him from his own distant home. An elderly villager, her face etched with the lines of countless experiences and deep understanding, answered softly, "It is not a treasure we found in some distant land or secret scripture. It was here, in the simple act of sharing our last bowl of congee, a moment when we chose to look beyond ourselves and embrace one another as family. In that moment, we learned that true wealth is measured not in coins or possessions, but in the love we extend to our fellow beings. Her words resonated with every heart present. The ripple of kindness had grown into a tidal wave of transformation, one that reached far beyond the boundaries of the village. In every story shared that night, in every tear of joy and every heartfelt embrace, the ancient truth of the Dharma was reaffirmed, that compassion is the light which dissolves the darkness of suffering, and that by giving of ourselves, we become instruments of peace and healing. In the months that followed, the story of the last bowl of congee inspired acts of generosity in communities near and far. Neighbors began organizing communal kitchens for those in need, local artisans shared their crafts freely, and even the merchants of the region started offering a portion of their earnings to support the less fortunate. The message was clear: compassion was a force that could not be contained, it was a living, breathing energy that transformed lives and wove the tapestry of human connection ever more richly. Ananda, witnessing the blossoming of this collective awakening, continued to travel and teach. Yet no matter where he journeyed, the memory of Serenity and its miraculous transformation remained etched in his heart. He would often recall that day, the day when a single, humble bowl of congee became a turning point in the lives of many, reminding him that every act of compassion, no matter how small, carries within it the potential to change the world. In time, even those who had once been estranged by sorrow or bitterness began to find healing through the simple, unwavering practice of kindness. The ripple of compassion spread like wildfire, igniting a chain reaction that wove together disparate lives into a vibrant tapestry of empathy, understanding, and hope. The story of the last bowl of congee was no longer a local legend, it had become a universal parable, a living reminder that the true essence of life is found in the quiet, persistent act of loving one another. Years passed, and the seasons turned as they always do. The village of Serenity continued to thrive, its people forever guided by the wisdom that had been nurtured on that fateful day. In the gentle cadence of daily life, every shared smile, every warm meal, every small act of giving, became a tribute to the enduring power of compassion. The humble bowl of congee, once seen as the last and final measure of sustenance, had evolved into a timeless emblem, a symbol that transcended the physical and spoke directly to the soul. In a quiet corner of the temple garden, a stone inscription was erected, a simple, unadorned reminder of the lesson that had transformed so many lives. It read, "May every heart, like a bowl of congee shared in kindness, overflow with compassion and light the way for others." The inscription, though modest, carried a weight of meaning that touched all who read it. It became a pilgrimage site for those seeking solace and inspiration, a place where the weary could pause, reflect, and remember that every act of love is a step toward awakening. Mai, now a revered elder in the village, would often sit beneath the ancient banyan tree, recounting the story to the young ones who gathered at her feet. Her voice, soft yet resolute, brought the past to life, a living link between the old ways and the promise of a better future. "Remember," she would say, "it is not the riches we hoard but the love we share that makes life meaningful. Even when all seems lost, the light of compassion will guide you home." Liang, once a lonely wanderer, had become a symbol of hope for those who had experienced the sting of loss. Through his gentle deeds and quiet humility, he showed that the cycle of suffering could be broken by the simple choice to care. In every repaired tool, in every kind word, Liang's journey was a living testament to the truth that every soul has the power to change, and that in the act of giving, we find our own redemption. And so, the legacy of that final meal continued to flourish. The story of the last bowl of congee was passed down through generations, a living narrative that grew richer with each telling. It reminded all who heard it that compassion is not a destination but a lifelong journey, a path that winds through moments of hardship and joy, connecting us in the shared tapestry of human experience. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world is still and every breath is a prayer, the gentle whisper of compassion continues to echo in the hearts of those who believe. For in every act of selfless giving, in every bowl shared in love, there lies the eternal light of the Dharma, a light that dispels darkness and reveals the beauty of our interconnected souls. Thus ends our tale, a moving story of a humble bowl of congee, a single act of compassion that transformed a village, ignited a ripple of kindness, and reminded us all that in the quiet, persistent sharing of our lives, we find the true meaning of existence. May this story inspire you to open your heart, to give freely, and to know that even the smallest gesture can be a beacon in the vast night of suffering. In the boundless realm of compassion, every heart can shine, and every soul can awaken to the eternal truth that we are all one.